In this group of videos, we've been talking about how relevant costs can lead us to make good logical decisions. And while that's true almost all the time, I just wanted to add one more video to say it's not 100% foolproof. Relevant cost analysis can lead to bad decisions. And I just wanted to highlight a couple of examples where relevant costs might not work so well. So I'm going to give one that's hypothetical, and I think logically your intuition will say, of course, we wouldn't, that's a bad thing, and relevant cost is leading us to the wrong decision. And I'll give you a real world example where smart, logical people made a smart, logical decision, and it turned out that relevant costs led them astray. So let's begin by discussing just a hypothetical. So this is just more of a pretend scenario. Let's pretend I run a movie theater and I'm showing the latest Star Wars movie. And it's the 7 p.m. showing and it's 90% full. I'm not sold out. And about 7:05, the movie started or the previews have started and customers are done. I'm not selling any more tickets. Somebody comes up and they say, hey, I want to go to that movie, but it's already started and I don't want to pay full price. Why don't you give me the ticket for $2? I want to go to this movie for $2. Now, normally a movie costs, let's say $10, but this person wants a pretty deep discount. I think logically my intuition would just say, I'm not taking that deal. Like, no way, right? It's $10 is the price. Too bad for you, buddy. And I think a logical intuition is probably correct here, but relevant cost analysis would tell us otherwise. Relevant cost analysis would say, okay, well, let's look at the deal as it sits. So we can either take the deal, so $2 for the movie, or don't take the deal. So in terms of revenues, if we take the deal, we're plus $2. If we don't take the deal, of course, no additional revenue. That's assuming the guy's not going to circle back and come to the 9 o'clock and pay full price, right? The assumption is he's coming for the $2. Obviously, it kind of goes out the window if he's going to pay full price eventually, which I think is the risk the movie theater is willing to take and why they don't take the deal. The costs here, or the expenses of taking the deal. Well, there's an extra bum in the seats in my movie theater, but that's about it, right? That's very few additional costs I can imagine. I would think virtually no cost if I accept the deal. It's just an extra person sitting in the theater. Let's assume he doesn't buy popcorn or drinks. He just wants to sit in the theater. He's a cheapo, doesn't want to spend any money. And so he doesn't buy any extra food or do any extra drinks. And if, of course, we don't take the deal, it's going to have a zero effect also. So in terms of net operating profit here, or operating income, we're plus 2 if we take the deal and obviously 0 if we don't take the deal. Now, having said that, I think almost nobody would take that deal. And the reason you wouldn't is because you wouldn't want this person to get the impression, oh, all I have to do is come late and pay $2. You wouldn't want word to get out, right? It would hurt future sales. And so the harm to future sales would make us not want to take the deal, even though, based on what we can sort of calculate in the moment, it's a good deal to take. I think most logical people would never take that deal. And that's why you don't see it happening very often. But I want to give an example where very smart, logical people took a deal where the relevant costs looked to be terrific, and it ended up being a pretty bad deal. So the company I want to talk about, or I want to highlight here, is a company that I love, use them all the time. Many of you probably use them too. The company is called Netflix. Netflix, if you don't know, well, you should know, but it's a company where you can stream movies and stream TV shows. You pay $10 a month and you get basically unlimited streams of movies and TV shows and other entertainment. So years ago, before Netflix was this giant juggernaut, they were just a company looking to, actually ship DVDs, but then they were looking to stream content over the internet pretty early on. I think they're a 10-year-old company, give or take. So they needed content. And so they went to like US content producers. So let's just say like the US networks like ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, all those companies that make TV, they make movies, all that type of stuff. And Netflix said, hey, we want to buy your old TV and movies that you're not doing anything with, right? Like if I go to NBC and I want to see, I'm just trying to think back to like a relatively unpopular show. I'm having a hard time. Let's say Frasier. This is a show from like the 90s. It was a spin-off of a famous show called Cheers. Frasier, there's not much demand for Frasier right now, right? It's like old show. And I'm Netflix and I say, you know what? I'll give you $1 million to let us stream Frasier for, a few years. And what NBC, that's who owned Frasier, would have to say is, okay, well, let's think about this. Are we getting more money for Frasier elsewhere? Is there, is it in syndication, selling to other companies, or is $1 million the best deal? And they would weigh the options. They would say, oh, you know what, we're going to go to Netflix or not. Well, a lot of these companies, ABC, NBC, CBS, looked at the math and they said, look, our back catalog of old shows, we can't show them on our channels because we only have so much time on our channels. Like, there's only 24 hours a day. We're not going to show comedy shows from the 90s. And you know what, Netflix? You can have them. And it wouldn't even take much money to get them. If there's no other demand for them, like, why wouldn't you take, a few dollars to sell the rights to something that you're just sitting on, right? Like assuming you're not selling a lot of DVDs, assuming there aren't a lot of other bidders for this content, you would sell your content to Netflix relatively cheaply. Now, in the short term, great decision, right? It's free money. It's all based on sunk costs. You've already produced these movies or TV shows, and you just got somebody saying, hey, I want to pay you money for all that old stuff that you produced all those years ago. It's free money. They would be crazy not to take it from a relevant cost analysis position, right? There's no relevant cost. It costs you nothing, and you get free money out of the deal. Now, what we found is years later, a decade into this, people are saying, oh my gosh, I can get as much good stuff as I want on Netflix. And in fact, Netflix makes their own stuff that's really good. I don't need these guys so much anymore. And so people are doing the thing called cord cutting, right? They don't have cable anymore. Fewer and fewer people have cable. Fewer and fewer people are watching ABC, NBC, CBS to get their advertisements. More and more time is being spent online on Netflix and other streaming services. And it turns out that these guys basically made Netflix, right? They provided all the content to Netflix, them and movie companies. Had they just said no to Netflix, they'd be in a much stronger position today. But because they said yes, and they said yes because of a relevant cost analysis, they said, look, you're going to offer us $1 million for something and it costs us nothing, we'll take your free money. Why wouldn't they? Because they couldn't foresee Netflix becoming the juggernaut it's become, they said yes, and they probably shouldn't have. If you think about just the competitiveness, they should have said, no, our content is valuable. If we give this to you, we're going to make you a new competitor for us. Not a wise decision. So it's kind of a long-winded way to say, sometimes if you just use relevant costs, and here the relevant costs were all sunk, so there were no relevant costs. When they took the money from Netflix, they couldn't foresee there being a problem, and they just treated it as free money. And so using relevant cost analysis led them to what I would definitely classify as a bad decision. So I hope this video was interesting to you, and I hope it was helpful to you. That's all for now. Talk to you soon.